Welcome everyone back to the Planar Crossroads / Black Dragon Gaming's Around the Hearth series. And today we're on Tommy's channel, Black Dragon Gaming. So Tommy, take it away.
What's going on, guys? It is by the time you guys see this Saturday morning after Thanksgiving. Sarah and I had a bunch of nachos. I think Joe is coming too. Anyway, I hope you guys had a whole bunch of fun. Today, I guess I should go ahead and throw a disclaimer in. We are blatantly breaking rules as written for this conversation in terms of what happens to our players, what happens when they natural 20, when they natural 1, any given dice roll, be it an attack, be it like just random skill check, or like inopportune knowledge check that makes them die horribly, that kind of thing. And yeah, I think personally, all the best stories come from stuff like that. Like, I am a blatant, unapologetic, horrible, terrible min-maxer, but I don't really remember like any combat I've been in, short of the Curse of Denny, but that will come soon. What I'm getting at is it's more fun when we tell dumb little stories like this, and if we just kind of cheat raw a little and let like the given diplomacy checks, the initiative rolls, blase blase, have a little extra effect. We all have a little extra fun, and I don't really see any harm in that. So I think we're going to put this one on Jeff first, because Jeff was the one who's calling for this one the hardest when we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. So go for it, buddy.
All right. So I told you the one last week about how I froze the ocean, all the world's oceans, and that was fun. But I think my two favorite ones was all the same DM, and he just sort of had you roll a 20, anything can happen. So we were trying to fly somewhere, and we needed to get some griffins so we could go for a long fly. But granted, this was like mid-2000s, mid-teenish, whatever. And I was like, is there a Nan cat? And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, little Pop-Tart cat that you ride, shoots the rainbows. He's like, roll for it. So I got a 20, and everyone else is sitting here on these griffins, and I'm running the nya 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 nya.
Damn.
So I had to do that whenever we were flying. That was fun. One that had long-lasting consequences throughout the rest of the game, which was really interesting as it worked in the side quest. So my profession for the same campaign was pimping. So I would go around from town to town and like find sex workers to recruit into my squad, because, you know, sex work is real work. So I'm like, all right, I'm looking for somebody new, and I roll in that 20, and I get blessed by Callistria. And what the trick is that the girl I brought into my harem is a better pimp than I was. So like she starts stealing all my girls from me and starts doing her own like lady pimpdom. And it's like we have a whole like showdown and roll off of diplomacy checks to figure out whose pimpdom harem do you want to join. All because Goddess blessed her with magical pimping skills.
That sounds more like a really bad natural 1 over here. That's how ours always turn out. Like, we're really good. Like, this was 2 weeks ago, I suppose, that we're in combat, and I'm like back to back nat 1s, and we're backed up against a wall, and Joe's jamming this, and it's just, all right, roll to hit Sarah's character, and then after that nat 1, I go to roll, and there's a nat 20, and surprise, I have sneak attack. And it drops her just immediately. Just tomahawk to the side, go.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was rough. I definitely did the most, like, party killing of my entire career in that one. And this is on a paladin. So, oops. What else have we done? I know.
Talk about,
well, you can talk about it, too.
Well, I wasn't there for this one, but I've heard so much about it. What was his name? Bald guy.
I have no idea, dude.
It's not Wayne, but it's something. Wes.
Oh, the dude critting himself to death. That one's just sad. That was real sad.
But share it.
It was okay, fine. So this was when our group first like synergized and formed together. in a game store a bunch of years ago, and a bunch of people didn't show up, and then showed up 6-ish sessions later. And when they show up, they're gratuitously underleveled, and so Joe's on a cleric, someone who's a terrible person's on a ranger, and I'm on a barbarian. Here comes his paladin, and I think we were fighting the Red Mantis guild from Pathfinder, and paladin just couldn't scratch him. So it got to a point where we're trying to, like, when you're in a video game and you get a character who's level 1 and you're all level 1 billion, and you just kind of stop and let him whack at things to get the experience. So we all just stop and watch, and he just fails to hit again and again and again and again and again and again until he decides, like, he gets super salty. He's going to run out of the store. People like that are terrible. But anyway, he decides he's going to kill himself, throws the dice down, natural 20, and out the door he goes. I don't think he even took his dice. But that's us, yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess that's a coup de grace, de grace against yourself. So
Good race. In the immortal words of Hercule. Let's.
At the beginning. Sorry to take the microphone.
Nah, go for it.
I think this can devolve into a really good discussion about rules right now. So.
I think Joe died. There he is.
Okay, I can't believe I died. I'm still alive over here. I think the reason that Tommy and I and Sarah's little group started the
I think he died again. Hello, Joe. Yeah, he's dead. Okay. But what he's getting at, unless he should ping back real fast, is we started because, in our opinion, everybody should have a chance to succeed and also a chance to fail at whatever it is they're doing. Like, say you find a way.
Matt was the first one to really start doing that.
You cut out all the way through that.
Did I?
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
Okay. Let me check. Just check
talk about the one where you.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Well, let Joe have the floor.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna restart there so that it tell me if I cut out. I think I might be able to hear you. So started with our first GM, Matt. Matt was he was an okay GM, but I think he was the one who really first introduced us to that idea that people have the chance to critically fail and critically succeed. And I think that we just kind of accepted that as the norm, and we continued on all through this as kind of like a tradition. And I realize probably other gaming groups do this, but Tommy had played in groups before, and I'm not sure if he had done it. But I mean, Matt started it without the assistance of Tommy. I remember my first crit was just a normal combat crit against a lizard folk. But that's where we got our term, a meat blizzard, when you kill something for overkill, essentially. And that was, I think that was our first introduction to the nat 1s and nat 20s that really affect the game.
Yeah, I definitely remember Meat Blizzard. And I also think, without the always chance to screw up and fail, some builds can just walk over things. I think the Barbarian archetype is called, Underwater Rager, I'm pretty sure. It doesn't matter. A one-level dip in it means you can add your con to intimidate checks, and then intimidating prowess adds your strength. So that's your strength, your con, your cha, into one skill. And if we just throw all those ability scores into the ceiling, that means even if we nat 1 that intimidate check, it's probably still just egregious, and that means we're going to walk over everything. And unless that safety, I guess, for lack of a better word, is installed, a lot of times it's no different than somebody building a really powerful, really optimized combat guy. They're just going to walk over everything you're doing. And the natural one helps the have that little bit of ping there to keep them from just, again, walking all over stuff.
I didn't realize that those feats stacked. or there's
No,
options
I don't
stacked?
think. I think the underwater ranger. I think intimidating prowess Tommy only replaces charisma with strength.
I
But
thought
in
they
a
said.
barbarian, that's way better. Or a blood
Weird.
ranger. I think
Well, in
it
that
just
case,
replaces.
I've been playing very wrong. I'm gonna
Yeah,
check that really quick.
you use strength instead of charisma, I believe.
Okay. Has that been eroded? I could have swore it read the other way.
That's how I've
Like
always
how-
played it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Add your strength modifier to intimidate skill checks in addition to your charisma
Oh,
modifier.
is it? Okay,
Yeah.
well then.
I can confirm.
Shut my mouth and call me Sammy.
Hi, Sammy.
Well, that'll affect how I build some things later on for sure.
Definitely.
The same goes for I haven't really got to get a whole lot of mileage out of it because of the way the game switched, and that's partially why come Starfinder time I'm going to be on a neutral evil, take Lore's personality from Star Trek, throw it on an assassin kind of thing, and just bluff my face off the entire campaign because my mesmerist right now just can't do that as effectively, partially because the
Oh,
rest
you'll
of the
get a
party.
chance to, Tom.
It's not because of the undead. It's because of I'm also playing a paladin who started off chaotic evil. It's also just that nat 1 will be there and suddenly everybody's on to me.
Yeah.
Or someone nat 20s and nat 1s, which is even more fun because then time goes backwards, dividing by 0, if you will. But that's enough out of me, rather. Let's hear from, I cannot think of names. I just see Bakuchan, Donald, or Kane, or anybody like that. If you've got fun stories.
I will begin. This story, it's the game IGM recently. This is a high level game, so it would have been about level 13 at the time, and this is a coup de grace hit natural 20. So the party blood ranger, he is facing off against his arch rival enemy, a humble dragon. So he got a natural 20, and I asked him to roll another 20, another 20, and another 20. And seeing he getting another 20 in a row, I just said, "Your god bless your weapon to instantly kill this dragon." I don't get to see many natural 20s in a row, so that was quite a good day for me, just seeing those natural 20s.
Isn't natural 20 followed by natural 20? Isn't that
Yes.
a 1 in 400? Something like that?
Yes, it was a natural 20 after another natural 20, and having 5 in total.
5 back to back to back to back to back back.
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes, the best and most entertaining. I saw a player got 3 6s in a row. So that was quite hilarious seeing those numbers.
I had somebody, and that somebody is also sometimes me, have just nat 1 after nat 1 after nat 1 after nat 1. And I guess eventually, to contradict the hell out of myself real quick, if somebody's just rolling terribly, then terribly, then terribly, maybe a mercy rule, maybe.
Preach, brother, preach!
Is that a little bit of Rod talking?
Yes.
I don't know. I saw basically just nobody hitting starships in the Starfinder session I was watching. I don't know how many of those were natural ones. I do know I'm really grateful that it's not a universal thing.
Oh, getting the EMPs that hit us were really what screwed me over.
Yeah, I'm just really happy that when I come in, I'm gonna nat 1 a diplomacy check and not be terribly screwed. Yeah, wasn't your engineer a pilot? Nice. Well, lucky for you guys, before... Well, lucky for you guys, I was already planning, because I really like X-Wing dogfights, to go the ace pilot route. So that can be solved, hopefully. But anyway, we digress, as usual.
I am done.
Let's see, there was...
So it's Colin's turn, I believe?
Colin is disappeared forever. Boo him. Well, Joe's back. Kane, you got anything?
I was thinking I really only have the one real good one, and it was sort of a culmination of we imported some stuff from a previous game that wasn't necessarily balanced for the game we were in. And it ended up stacking a couple different multipliers together.
Damn.
We had gotten all the way to the end of the campaign, and we thought we had beat him. You know, he went. Our evil guy had gone down, and his corpse, his desiccated lich body, started to like bubble and roil, and it did the gross mutation thing from The Thing. If you've ever seen The Thing.
Oh yeah.
And he turned into this giant demon monster. And he in the first round of combat, he killed our sorcerer. Just like outright dead. And then in the following round of combat, I crit him, and because I was so low on health, it triggered like a different ability that would only worked when he was below half health, which multiplied his damage again. So I think I ended up doing 950-ish points of damage that round, and just one-shot him.
Nice. There's also like in a fantasy setting, in games like these, we come into this to have fun, and a lot of times I guess this sort of depends on how combative is probably the wrong word, but how combative your GM is, and how like we've all seen those memes where, oh, the GM is mad at you. Here's Cthulhu and power armor, that kind of thing. But like, you need that, just even if it's just a little teeny weeny shimmer of hope to succeed, because that's kind of nature of the beast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember a million years ago, I'm on a half fiend. Eventually, he goes into a Gestalt Bolt Ace rogue, and to set up the scenario, I don't remember. I know Joe's GMing. I don't remember who all was playing there. Sarah, were you there?
For what?
Probably know that. Yes, that.
If she was probably asleep.
Yeah.
What?
And we have a Sasquatch, I think it was. Yeah, it was a Sasquatch NPC,
Tell this story.
and he summons a treant, and we're attacking like a military base, and so I stealth.
Attacking a ranger station.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I stealth my way up onto this tree, and it goes to rip the roof off the joint. And as it starts aggroing all the soldiers, I just kind of like say something along the lines of like, renovations, nothing to worry about here. Bluff check, and it's a natural 20.
These guys are going to weapons. They have a few ladies of the night over, and Tommy and this druid treant, this druid Sasquatch who animates a treant, they are attacking this like corrupt. The story is all sorts of convoluted, but it pretty much goes how Tommy places it. He impersonates the leader of the guys who they just killed, and yeah, nothing going on here. Back to business.
And so it was. And then there were many sneak attacks, and it was beautiful. I don't remember exactly how it was dual-wielding gigantic crossbows.
They were hand crossbows, Tommy. They were hand crossbows.
At that point. I don't know where his sheet is, but I'm pretty sure they're double heavy crossbows now. Anyway, I digress. We also had, like Joe saying in the Discord chat, we had some pretty good nat 20s with a sorcerer. Which is
those
like,
were not nat 20s. I'll tell you that right now.
Wait, what?
Those were take 20s. You remember that? Okay, I'll set this one up.
Oh, God.
We are playing part of an AP that our first GM, Matt, is turning into a homebrew store. And so we have a man we call Yu-Gi-Oh! He's obsessed with Lord of the Rings, he's obsessed with Aragorn, and he's playing his version of Strider, who's an asshole. And I'm playing a cleric, Tommy's playing a half-elf barbarian, and we are trying to get rid of this sorcerer who's in this like old busted-up tower outside of Abs. Sound familiar, Tommy?
It does.
He just found out about...
No, go ahead.
We just found out about taking 20. And I guess everyone misunderstood the idea of taking 20 as a natural crit. So we're going up this tower, taking 20 on our stealth checks. Come up the tower. William takes 20 on his shot to Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Takes 20 on his shot to hit the sorcerer and kills him. And he kills the biggest bad in this entire story right off the bat. And basically that ended at level 10.
And we were like level 6 when this began. I remember Josh we just went 4 levels and we just like run to his house. And well, he doesn't sound that like idiotic. I shouldn't say it that way, but he's just like mind dash blown, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like I'm on I think at that point, 2 Moons has got his Were-Tiger stuff.
No, we got it at level 10.
Okay, so regardless of what I know I was on a 3.5 feet that lets you carry giant weapons with pretty much no penalty. So I'm on like a huge spear, and there's taking 20 on stealth checks, and the sorcerer does not take 20 on the perception. That would just blow us out of the water, and yeah, we just gank him. Is rough. But taking 20 is an entirely different, like, I don't even like doing that anymore, even like on dumb downtime stuff. Because again, you're gonna want that. Like I remember,
The chance of naturally.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 ish sessions ago.
Every time
Joe's
you
game.
every time you take 20 or take 10, the first result is considered an automatic fail. So by rules, so that's one of the reasons that someone shouldn't take 20 for like disarming a trap. Because if you do, you set it off the first time. Which means if that's a fireball trap, you may have just wiped out the party. Good job, Rogue.
Oh, yeah. And see, now
Sarah,
we didn't understand that at the time.
I think Sarah knows all about fireball traps and nat one-ing with a certain rogue who had a necklace of fireballs in her inventory. This is like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
But we'll go ahead, Sarah.
So my character has a fireball bead in his pocket, and I think the character's girlfriend runs the corner and sets off another trap with a fireball bead, and then I rolled the reflex save and nat 1, and the one in my pocket blows up, and I lose my pants.
Yep, she was pantless for a long time.
At least 2 sessions.
Just her pants? If there was enough damage done, I would have said your leg was blown off. Man.
It wasn't enough damage to kill him. But I said his pants were gone. You had to borrow the pants of the NPC.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how did you stay pantless for so long? Emmy was pantless for, like, all of 30 minutes in the one session.
Oh, so then in the shop, I was definitely like standing there pantless for like 15
the NPC
minutes.
wanted his robe back so that and so Phalar did have to walk around the streets of Yule without pants on for a short bit.
Sarah, I am surprised your character didn't have an extra pair of pants on them.
Why would I have that? I'm not a 2-year-old.
Because you had 2 swordcades.
Yeah.
Fucking hipster.
The roughest. And again, that's just another example of how nat 20s and nat 1s make the game more interesting, because here we are laughing about it a couple weeks later. Like I was saying before, we were in Arcadia, which is a different Pathfinder like continent, and we're trying to like cross the mountains, and it's taken weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of walking. But I nat 20 a perception check, and then suddenly my cat familiar just kind of turns the corner and oops, scroll the teleport, and that solves everything, which just kind of drives the point home. Like that 5% chance to just win greatly it's important here. Also, bye, Jeff.
Bye, Jeff.
I don't want to interrupt you. Bye.
You're good.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks, Sarah.
While we're on the topic of natural 20s, it occurred to me, has anyone here ever tried the reverse pickpocket?
No.
I have not.
I have done the reverse bluff. The reverse bluff pickpocket essentially just convince someone that the fake that they were putting on, or no, the real thing was a fake, and that the real thing was the fake. It was convoluted, but it was hilarious. Continue.
That was in my game.
Yeah, it was.
Do you know what I'm talking about when I say the reverse pickpocket?
Like a Fallout thing.
Yeah, like when you sneak a grenade into someone's pants.
Holy shit!
Boom!
It made me think of it because one of you has a California Ranger as your avatar, and we're talking about
Heyo.
Yeah. That's something I'm definitely going to try to do a whole lot in Starfinder on my operative, is just like not be proficient with grenades, but be proficient with sleight of hand and just run the hell away and bang.
That's okay. You can get grenades off Rod. I have a lot of them.
And you can just make them with bric-a-brac.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
I can make any grenade of my level or lower.
Damn.
Hey, was that when Matt went up in the guy's face and cast dancing lights? Was that in that one?
Oh my god.
Yeah,
I think that was...
one.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, so this is my second campaign. Galerion's covered in partially covered in a global city, and the rest of Galerion is an utter wasteland. And so there's a pretty strong authoritarian government in place. And Matt decides that he is going to try a bluff check with his oracle and cast dancing lights and say that he's a terrorist. Everyone needs to move away from him. The monks that were around him, who were kind of active as like the secret police, they're a bit scared at first, and then he nat ones. And so they just... one of them becomes a level 15 monk, and they quivering palm him, and Tommy runs away from the situation, and we essentially have a TPK, where basically we were like, okay, we need to reload this save because Matt was a failed terrorist, and he got taken down by the air marshals.
The only time I've ever been, like, just really happy to have had a fly speed. Well, I didn't have fly speed. I had a flying mount, but whatever. It was real bad. Definitely the only time there's been a confirmed, like, hit F9, quick load, that kind of thing.
There was the time when you tried to destroy part of the puzzle, and I said, okay, then you all starve and die in this dungeon.
Yeah, fair enough. There have been a whole bunch. Then, again, it just drives it home that the story is what this whole dumb dice and paper and super expensive plastic toys is kind of all about. So when we let these things happen, it works great.
Oh, you just
Like,
you gotta find the proper place to buy your super expensive plastic toys, though.
Hero Forge.
No, Orchulans.
Oh god.
I had my Giant Eagle mini came from Orchulans. I'm not sure if people know what that is, but it's like a
Redneck
rural,
farm store.
Yeah, they got like rural supplies, like chickens and tractor stuff. I don't know.
Other Hig stores are available.
If you're
We're not endorsing Orchulans.
Yeah, no.
if you're
Unless they
playing a
want to sponsor
druid,
me.
if you're playing
They
a
have
druid,
little
all you gotta do
toys.
is get one of them farm sets. If
Oh
you're
god.
Yeah.
or one of those dinosaur sets, or something like that.
Dude, I have legit seen those for sale in game stores. So,
Home Goods has some pretty good dragon minis in it. Other
Yeah.
stores
And St.
are
Louis Zoo
available for
does.
your bead supplies.
And then go
I
to
think they're the
Goodwill.
same brand as the Giant Eagle is. I don't know what the brand is, but they make little plastic animal toys, and they're really nice. So
and it's also way better than the licensed official, about 66% more expensive Wizards of the Coast mini for the exact same thing.
I've just been buying buckets of plastic monsters off of Amazon.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
that's the way to do it.
It is.
You go to
Is it-
Goodwill and you can just buy old board games and
That's a good
salvage
idea.
and scavenge through there.
Risk if you need Napoleonic soldiers. That was my first campaign, and I really could have used those for many.
It'd have been great.
Goodwill's a good place to scavenger hunt for goodies and stuff.
Adam, definitely the older older board games. Definitely using those minis definitely help if you need a token quickly.
Do you know
Yeah.
our first ever game we ever played? Again, at that LGS, we were for a long time before I discovered the wonderful thing that is Reaper Minis. We used Star Wars Episode 1 Monopoly stuff. So, yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
always in.
I was like the like pre-Palpatine or whatever, wasn't I?
Yeah, I think so. And I was on the Darth Maul, I guess. Yeah, I just remember that everyone we didn't like / the NPC was Jar Jar forever. Sarah, I think you might have been Jar Jar 1.
Oh.
You indeed. Oh, what other terrible things have happened? I remember the Curse of Denny. That one was rough.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned that right before we started. What is the curse?
Joe?
Okay, so my second campaign, they're deep under the global city. They're trying to free the prince of the city from. He's essentially trapped inside of, like, he can't escape from, like, basically he's trapped inside a small sun. It's okay, he's safe. But they're fighting fire elementals, and Tommy's in close melee combat with one of these fire elementals, and he just keeps swinging at him, hits him, does damage to him. But every time I'm trying to get him to see something, and he nat ones. He nat ones 3 times. And the third time, I'm like, okay, you kill the fire elemental, because it's the entire time the fire elemental is just flipping him off and not taking any damage, because he's at 0 hit points, he's going to die. But, like, god dang it, Tommy. So I decided that Tommy's punishment is that from henceforth until he nat 20'd again, I would call him Denny from the famous Tommy Wiseau movie, oh hi Denny. And so, like, it goes for, like, 2 rounds, and barely anyone calls Tommy Denny, and then he nat 20s. That was the Curse of Denny. I may be selling it a bit short. Tommy may be able to fill in a few details. It was a while ago.
I remember it being super rough. And this is on a Gestalt Blood Rager Druid who's got a 15 to 20 threat range and 2-weapon fighting, and I just cannot hit anything forever. And at the time, I was a little salty about it, I'm not gonna lie. But that's mostly because I'm just swinging super, super, super wildly. But again, here we are a year-ish later, perhaps a little more, and it's funny now. So, and that's the point, right? We're supposed to be having fun. You're gonna remember that later more than, like, I don't know how many dragons I've killed. The most, well, that makes me sound like super badass, doesn't it?
Oh wait, you bombed all those dragons
Oh,
in my game. So that's like a few hundred alone.
Yeah, and yet I don't even remember that compared to.
You don't remember that?
Not as much as the Curse of Denny. Not even as much as the Curse of Denny.
See, I remember that. That's
or
not
like,
a 20 story we don't need to get in. That's a story for another time.
How much can you get when given a lot of gold?
Speaking of ones, Kane has been having a certain kind of unique experience for him in the Starfinder game we've been playing.
Well, it hasn't been ones. It's just been awful, terrible, no good, very bad luck.
At least 5 of them were ones.
Well, probably.
Thankfully, they were out of combat, and you didn't have to confirm them on our crit chart.
Yeah, one of them did almost crash us and die.
Yeah.
Spoilers. Sorry, Tommy.
Yeah, you're fine.
Well, I mean, Tommy probably expects such a thing.
Yeah.
Well, because
you guys are having a...
The terrible thing is Rod is that group's backup pilot.
You know?
The guy who's constantly drunk is the backup pilot. Lovely.
I'm not constantly drunk. Or Rod's not constantly drunk.
Kane thought you were talking about him as a person for a second. He's like, I'm not constantly drunk. Wait, we're talking about Rod.
That's fucking rude, Tommy. Jeez.
That's my secret plan. I'm not assembling everybody together to feed them to a death worm. Nope, I'm here to insult you.
Yeah. One of my friends did remind me of a story from a previous game we played. I think we were in the middle of a city during like an orcish raid or something. It was very early game, very, stereotypical. He was new. He was very new GM. It was like the city's being attacked by orcs. Defend yourselves. And one of my friends, Malcolm, this was Malcolm actually, was playing one of his many, many kobold characters. He loves playing kobolds. And he's a coward. So he decides to hide in the middle of town. And Connor goes, all right, roll, stealth. Give me, where do you want to hide? So he rolls the dice and it comes up a natural 1. He says, you have the perfect hiding place. And he points to the map and he points directly at the well. So into the well he jumps. And then he asks for a climb check, which he nat ones again. And he falls all the way to the bottom of the well and is stuck there for most of the rest of the session while the rest of us can't find him because we have no idea where he is.
Rough. I had something like that happen once, and it was for totally the wrong group to do this kind of thing because most of those guys were just really terrible and argumentative. To put it one way, at the course of getting through this puzzle, one of the players, it devolved from all they needed to do was span like a gap that a terrible rope bridge was hanging on, and it devolved into him telling all the other players how this puzzle was beneath him because he could calculate the mass of a black hole, but that's an entirely different story. The bridge is, and this is in my horror game, the bridge is supposed to snap, Slender Man to come in, booga booga booga, that kind of thing, and the party's rogue is trying to climb up the busted rope ladder, and she nat ones, and then nat ones, and then nat ones, and then nat ones. I don't know if there's that many. This is like in my wee batty GM days. But the point is, she fell, and then the barbarian to whom she is married fell. And I told him that his backpack got hung up on a rock or something, and all his gear was floating down Spooky River, and he got super argumentative about it. So I guess I'm not going to go so far as to say be sparing with your creativity. Maybe this is more of just again a PSA to not hang out with terrible people. But
didn't Carrie crossbow kill herself?
Oh my god, that was an at 20 that went in her terrible favor. I put him in a glass room, and all she had to do was stomp her foot, break the glass, and it was filling up with water or some noise. So she got in her head she was gonna take a exploding arrow, shoot it at her feet. She nat 20s, so yeah, damage goes off, and she's very dead on the other side. And this party, that might have been her last session, because they're on a fighter, a barbarian, or a ranger, and her, I didn't know what a cleric was, or even how powerful it was until Yosef, because there's just no casters anywhere.
If she had fired it at the wall, I might have argued with you, but why would you point an explosive at your feet?
Because she was just there because
rocket
her
boosting.
husband was.
Team Fortress 2, go!
Yeah, well, that doesn't. They look like cartoons for a reason. I feel like that's maybe.
No, I agree. Yeah, you're gonna blow your feet off. you're gonna be an accidental paraplegic there. Not that anyone's a paraplegic on purpose, but.
Hey, Colin made it. Bye bye.
Blow your own feet
can you
off.
hear me?
I can hear you.
It took you so long. Why is we had a time and everything.
Yeah, 7:30 sharp.
You taking a dump?
Ooh.
That's rather forward of you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Ladies and gentlemen, my beautiful wife. Stop giving yourself
just got a new phone and had to set it up real quick.
new phone, new disc. Well, let's give you the floor. You said you had a bunch of super great stories about nat 20s and nat 1s. And then he dies again.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Some new phone you got there.
Yeah. All right.
What is
Well,
that? Is that
Sorry,
is that
I didn't
pixel?
catch what
Sounds
you
like
said.
a pixel.
He came back. So, I said you died. Before that, since you said you had a bunch of really good stories about this, let's pass the floor over to you about all your super sweet nat 20s and nat 1s and oh my.
Okay, so I had a pretty fun nat 20 in a D&D puck that was a lot of fun. We were doing an epic level D&D setting, but we were more just rolling dice and didn't really have character sheets or stats, and the DM would just sort of decide, what happened based on the die roll and class and what have you. But what ended up happening was we were in a situation where we were fighting a bunch of demons of Asmodeus, and we were all followers of different dragon gods, and it was sort of the dragon gods versus the Asmodean armies. But the fun thing was, we were coming up to this cave, and someone decides to throw a torch down there to see what's in there, and it wakes up a whole bunch of bat demons, and they swarming and getting ready to fly out this cave towards us, and everyone's scattering except my little dwarf paladin, who was probably one of the few members who wasn't a dragonborn, decided to just sit there and blast these guys with a breath attack, because that was sort of my reward for epic levels, was I got a breath attack as a dwarf. And all these other all these dragonborn that were there, like, oh, well, we can't let some dwarf show us up with his breath attack, so they all stood their ground as well and came back and decided to brace for these things that come at us. I think 3 out of the 5 of us rolled nat 20s for the breath weapon, including me, who was smiting these things on top of that. And we just annihilated the entire cave with that, because it was just this nutso breath thing from a dwarf and 5 different dragonborn, including holy damage in there. And so the DM just ruled, okay, you know, all these guys, they're incinerated. You have no one left to interrogate now.
Fair enough.
So that's my first story. That was pretty fun.
Well, if you've got any more, by all means, we've been yakking for an hour and change. No change, but you get the gist.
Gotcha. Okay. What's I think my other big story I have, for those of you who have watched Rise of the Rune Lords, this is a nat 1. From the very first session, I was playing a character who was overloaded with too much equipment, so I had big negatives to stealth. I rolled a nat 1, which translated to a modified -3, trying to sneak away from Xian, who was another one of our PCs, out the backside of a tent. And I ended up falling on top of him rather than getting away from him. And I brought down the tent with me on top of all that.
Yeah, I definitely remember that. I remember seeing it, and I remember thinking, like, I didn't know there was a goblin attack just immediately, like, right around the corner in that AP. I guess spoilers, I don't know how far Joe is. But regardless, like, if I was jamming that, I definitely would have had, like, you knock over tent, and here comes, like, at least the guards are going to be aggro about something. But I don't think we've heard from Adam a lot. And I know Adam, like, I've watched him GM, and I don't see this, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but the GM is God in his particular setting. And, like, you do what you want. But I'm curious as to why you don't, Adam, because I've never not seen it the other way before you.
Why I don't go way overboard with the with crit hits and misses?
I don't think I go overboard.
Well, I don't. We have a chart that we end up using, and I like it because it keeps me from going too far one way or the other, and everybody agrees to it. So it's that one from Dragon Magazine, critical hits and good hits and bad misses, or whatever it is. So there's cool stuff in there, and it's available to the players, but the players also understand that it's available to the bad guys. So everybody has the understanding of what to expect if something like this happens. So if we were looking at slashing weapons, there's, let's look at the random number is, let's say 50. It would be, where'd it go? Well, let's do 63. With a slashing weapon, shield destroyed, no effect if no shield. Well, that's not that bad, but if you go down to 73 on the percentile, you've lost an eye. Or if you go down even further than that to 87, weapon arm removed at elbow of the enemy. So, and that can happen to a player if they get hit with a crit, or it can happen to a bad guy if it gets hit with a crit. So the crits are pretty potent in the game. It's just that I never end up critting my players, of course. I always end up getting crit by them. But
well, they have crazy hit ranges.
Well, just Greg.
Yeah, well, no, Magpie's got a pretty good one too. I just never roll high.
Sweet burn.
Yeah. That table, by the way, comes from a table called Good Hits and Bad Misses. It's from an older edition of Dragon Magazine, I believe. Put out for, I think, AD&D.
But I remember seeing you guys use that, and I think it's somewhere in the 40s is where the multiplier increases by 1, and that's like every time I see somebody roll 40, roll 40, roll 40. But like Joe's saying, we use the book is called Torn Asunder Critical Hits. It's a, I guess, 3.5 book. I don't know. But we do, if somebody rolls a crit, say, let's say my armor class is 35, and you add absolutely nothing to your attack roll. I don't know why you're attacking then, but I digress. For every 5 points over the target's armor class that your crit gets, you do like kind of bad effect, a little worse effect, and then the top end is, well, we make experience logs in terms of like fight constructs, chop their legs off, and this is on a dice roll. You like roll a d8 for a humanoid, and 1 is the head, 7 is the left leg, as one of Joe's characters can attest. But we just like that keeps it keeps things both like interesting when you hit, as well as like my witch's leg definitely got cut off a couple weeks ago because her class is less than high, and here comes a construct with a spinning halberd thing, and just my leg flies off in the corner. Super rough.
Yeah, I usually use the laying waste crit generator just because it's quick.
I tried we had an ex-player. He bought the Pathfinder cards. I don't know.
Yeah, I have the cards too.
I hate those cards so much.
They're so lame. They're like, do 1d6 extra damage. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, they ended up being a lot more underwhelming than I had hoped they would be.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of them, yeah, like Sarah said, they're like doing extra d6 of damage.
You
or
bowstring on straight.
do this d4 of dexterity ability damage, and you always seem to pull those cards on undead or other shit that's immune to ability damage. But in that deck, there's also just a card called Decapitation.
Decapitation! Oh.
Nice.
Those Don cuts first. Well, I think I'm not being picked up.
I got you.
My character's first. One of my favorite characters' first tattoos he got was against a barbarian who's like.
And you're gone.
Goodbye, Joe. He died. I don't know if he can hear us.
Goodbye, Joe.
Curse you, bad country internet.
But I'm like, Tommy, I want to try and get him in the neck with my sword, and I nat 20 it, and Don Cod's sword just like a hot knife through butter just goes through this 15th level barbarian's head, and Don Cod takes his body, straps it to the front, takes its head, puts it on top of the mast. He's like, all right, I'm in charge of this ship now.
I'm pretty sure Ragnar was like at least 5 levels over your head, I think. Yeah. And he was supposed to be an important NPC going forward. And
yeah, I rest him later, and I'm like, all right, you're my bitch now.
Yeah. But this is just, again, like why I feel like we respect the D20. The Nat 20 beats everything, including the plot. Like I kind of believe in plot armor, or like as we say here in Missouri, things are made of geometanium and they are unbreakable forever. That sort of
Did
thing.
I originally come up with geometanium?
Yep, that was you
That was.
in a Marvel game.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad that I think everyone has their own name for it. My group calls it Unbreakium.
Breakium. Nice.
Nice.
Well, my group doesn't call it anything because none of the NPCs have it. So
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Well, we haven't attempted to destroy your plot yet.
No, the plot just
Not
runs away from you.
directly. I mean, skipping over half a module that can change a plot quite a bit.
I blame Alex for that mostly.
Why? Alex didn't do it. Collins Fox did with Scent.
Yeah.
But Alex knew what we were skipping.
Hey,
So what
that
did you
just means
skip?
you guys can't complain about the stuff, and I can't tell them what they've skipped because when you don't kill bad things, they usually get stronger.
I could be wrong, but I believe there's sort of a murder mystery thing that goes on around the sawmill and the surrounding areas before we get to Foxglove Manor. But I haven't actually played through that part of the module, so I don't know.
Fair enough. So are you guys just completely done with book 2?
No,
We're right
they've got
at the
some.
end.
They're on 3
Ish?
technically. They're on the 3rd module, and
Okay.
they're coming closer to the end. I mean, they're on their way to Magnemar, which is where they needed to go anyway. But they're going to get a curse removed. But that's all for Rise of the Rune Lords. I would be doing a disservice to my players that aren't here, and one that is, if I don't mention a couple of crits that I remember them getting. Alex brought up that he got a crit on a shambling mound that was in the Rise of the Rune Lords, and he just basically melted the thing's face with the crit. If a shambling mound could have a face, it basically melted through the shambling mound, so it kind of caved in like a souffle that's been around too loud of a noise. It goes, and it just kind of in. So he got a crit with that, and that was a time that I didn't use the table because it wouldn't have mattered anyway. So we do describe our killing blows very much, quite a bit more. A second one is when Joel, one of our players, was playing, and I think I told this story off mic last time, was how he got returning on his scythe that he carried around in the last game that we all played together, and in the beginning and endings campaign, and they were stuck in a dream world, and they had to kill the animate dream to get out, but it kept, animate dreams can pop around and move around in mental scape without having to worry so much about physics and junk like that. So it was getting away. And he's like, I throw my scythe. No returning. No, it doesn't have returning. It doesn't have anything on it like throwing. So he took minuses to all the appropriate things to do it. And what does he roll but a 20? And it's enough. The natural 20 got it there, and it was enough to kill the animate dream. So that there allowed them to escape that dream world they were locked in, which was a very cinematic way to do that. And it seemed that when the heat was on, that scythe came through for him quite a bit, because he was also falling to his death from a floating elven castle above the Unholy Empire, in the midst of a dragon battle also happening, and a siege of nasty, evil stuff below that. But he threw his scythe, and stuck it in one of the floating rocks and was able to catch himself on it. So that definitely helped him out in those situations.
Yeah, Drill had some pretty crazy luck.
Yeah, certain moments that just made it more solid for him to have the bonuses that he did to that weapon. And the last one is actually one of Kane's that he hasn't mentioned. He also faced a shambling mound in the Beginnings and Endings campaign. And during that campaign, he achieved one of our homebrew traits or feats or whatever you want to call it, or achievements. He got one of our homebrew achievements called Kalima, because he drove his hand directly into the beast and ripped out its heart. So
sometimes you just gotta rip the hearts out of things. I remember sometimes you gotta like know where to stop them. Like I said before, with like the mercy rule on nat ones, by that same token, you can't just like. There are times when the nat 20 has to be pulled in. Like I remember, we call them the ever game where we come from, and what that means is we started at noon on Saturday and knocked off 5 a.m. Sunday
Fucking
morning.
7 o'clock in the fucking.
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
and this was when the end of my last game was starting to get pretty serious, and all the characters are trapped in like we're jumping from a demiplane. You guys who don't know me are gonna find I use demiplanes way too much probably, but regardless, we're going from a demiplane back to Galarion, and there's a lot of like Eldritch Horror things at work, and they fight a star spawn and a bunch of like super corrupted tentacle solar angel things, and then they get stuck at the bottom of essentially like this well they jump down to get back to Galarion, and nobody could figure out how to get out. And then that person to whom I am married, she picks up the dice and just, I'm gonna roll perception. Is there a trap door near here? Boom, that's 20. No, there was no trap door. We did not let that happen. It was super hilarious. Because she was like, I'm pretty sure you were joking. You were joking, right? Because I'm gonna try to find a trap door. Roll perception.
I mean, kind of.
The point is, they're definitely like, I'm a big fan of power to the players, and I'm a big fan of, like Adam says, give the bad guys the same sort of like buffs, but let the nat 20s ride. But I guess there's also got to be that line.
Okay. We're coming up on an hour and 10. Does anybody have any last stories before we call it today?
Why don't we run it? Donald, I see you throwing them in Discord forever and ever.
Yeah, I just was thinking of other previous stories. So this is a story how a big bad came into play by chance. So me and a group of players, we were in a dungeon. I failed on a roll. I did beat the DC, but getting a natural one, my character lost a pinky, and it was teleported to another plane. I did not learn later why the finger was teleported elsewhere. So when the party and us, we were in a Medusa vampire lair, I saw another statue that looked like me, and then the Medusa froze me. And when we got back to town, both of us were in froze. The statue of me, and I later learned that the pinky that I lost, the big bad we were facing, cloned me pretty much. So that was quite hilarious.
When in doubt, use the player's character sheet against them.
Yes, I knew he was going to betray me, but not knowing when. So we were going to face the big bad in a burrow somewhere. So we made the perfect plan to kill the big bad in a single hit. But the clone, he pretty much ruined the entire plan. Say, "Hey boss, I'm here." We did kill the boss, but the boss fled in time using a teleportation spell, and we learned he was a lich.
See, Kane, I'm not the only one that does that, okay?
Well, I mean, we also didn't come up with a plan to murder any of your villains in a single hit.
Yeah,
Uh,
we have.
I
And
would
there
like,
have been.
I would like to call a very optimized plan to take out a boss before he become a menace again. So he teleported away using a teleportation spell when we killed him and learned he was a lich. The clone pretty much killed my character almost permadeath and left my character to die as he fled. So we have in the current campaign have him and my clone to worry about.
Well, that's the problem with arrogant villains. They don't kill you; they just put you in a position to die real easy.
Yeah.
The worst part is now I have to come up with a plan. How do I combat myself, knowing my character, which is me, I'm my worst enemy. So how do you outsync yourself?
By
Just
becoming an
magic.
entirely different person. Anywho, so since we gotta like get kind of close to wrapping up time, Sarah, you got anything? We haven't heard a whole lot from you.
The only one I can think of that we missed, one where Josh's character had gone away to another plane and was gone forever. And then the character's husband like went somewhere. Well, you were GMing.
I was jamming.
What happened?
This is dude was playing a Vieira from Final Fantasy 12. Yeah, 12. And I put her in a situation where cute little Moogle comes out at the end of the world, and I give him the opportunity to escape all the terrible stuff forever, and he takes it. And by taking it, that removes the character from the game, which was kind of bad because that was definitely his most optimized. He was a real good archer. And later on, I bring it back as a bad guy because I know where the sheet is, and I put it like in a. I don't remember exactly what I did. It was something like they screwed up the puzzle and the character attacks him, and lots of damage everywhere, and then he's a better role player than most of the maybe not a better role player. Of course, he's gonna hear this, but hi, Josh. Anyway, he nat 20s on like a diplomacy check to get her to stop, and kindness of my heart, I pull the character sheet out, pass it, and he got his character back. When like I was planning on, like, there's a lot of leadership abuse and a lot of 2-3 campaigns rolled together to make that gigantic campaign, and it was trying to like split people off to make the party weaker, and he was able to circumvent it. So if Sarah, you have nothing else, then we will go to Kane. Any other fun stories?
I really only had the two. I don't have a lot. I've got a terrible memory for stories.
Fair
I have like, I probably if you got me talking, I probably got a bunch of just normal gaming stories of like super dumb stuff we've done, but I don't have any pertaining to dice rolls.
Fair enough. Adam?
I'm similar to Kane. I usually have to have my memory spurred before I remember super awesome things that happened, and I don't usually roll them, so there's that.
Usually it's Greg.
Yeah, it's a shame we didn't have Malcolm here. He's my high school group's repository for dumb bullshit.
Fair enough. Everybody needs that lore master.
Yeah.
I think mine, and I know we've talked about this at least once, and I know there's a video somewhere in like my early days when I'm recording on Sarah's iPhone, and the quality's still less than good now. We're working on it, but it's just like record on a phone, upload it, go. Where this is me and Joe, and the third player, he had a bad habit, like we talked about, and one of these around the hearts of like he was working all the time forever. So a lot of times mid-session, and we'd go for a long time, he would go lay down for a couple hours, and then we'd wake him up, and he'd come back again. And in this time, we're looking at I'm on a sorcerer who eventually becomes a black dragon disciple for whom my channel is named, and Joe is on a little tiny swashbuckler. And we have we're at a low enough level on a full caster where pack mules and stuff matter. We can't just snap teleport, and we come to this rickety old terrible bridge, and we have no idea how to get the ponies across, but we had the foresight to buy potions of fly. So we feed the potions of fly to the ponies, but no one has handle animal, and so they're just kind of hovering and freaking out. And we don't know what we're going to do. So in my infinite wisdom, I just look at my wife who's jamming, and I put one of my feet in the stirrup, slap it as hard as I can, and scream at it in Elven. And I nat 20. And we start trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen. And Sarah's just, I need no more. I need no more. You're fine. And that is why Joe and I will often say that we have ridden ponies across the sky, because we have.
Well,
Like
maybe
that-
they were elven ponies.
Like that clip from
Yeah.
Krull or something like that. Fire ponies across the sky. Epic music
Nice.
plays.
Yeah. Joe, you got one more for us?
Well, Colin does.
Colin is bottom of the line.
I don't have any more.
All right, Colin. Take us home.
All right, one last one from Starfinder. Not to give any spoilers, but we
Are
were
you,
on
are
a.
you talking about the Nat 20
and,
Nat 20 knowledge check or something?
The computers check, yeah.
Mm.
And basically, the ship was about to vent, and I had just a limited amount of time to shut it down, even though I had access to the computers. So I ran up there. I decided to roll computers. I got a nat 20 on it. Ended up being 30 something. And so not only was I able to keep the ship from venting, I was able to quickly pressurize it and open up the door to reveal who had been trying to vent us from this ship.
Well, they weren't trying to vent us from the ship. They were trying to get into
Escape.
the other ship to
Yeah.
strand us.
Oh yeah, they were only trying
Um,
to leave us here to die. Steal our ship.
Yeah, I was trying not to give too many details, but yeah.
Yeah. That whole
Someone
time I'm
tries to
dating
steal
you.
our ship, Tommy. It's a bad time. That's
Ooh. Well, dude, a third-ish of the party can survive in a vacuum, so you'll be fine. You've
Okay.
got that nice spacesuit.
Yeah, but we'll be floating around
Days
in
at a
space
time.
forever.
Everybody
we
can
could have
survive for a
fixed
little
the-
while.
We could have fixed the Acreon and gone home. I'm
Wayne can
confident
get you
that-
there in 1 hour increments and just rest for 24 hours in space and don't eat. That'll be fine. And then just boost forward again for an hour.
No, Wade can fly in space.
Isn't it just for an hour though?
No, I got my spacesuit on. I could go as long as the air lasts.
Yeah,
And then I
fair
can go
enough.
for an hour after that.
Ah, okay. I thought it was just the pretty butterfly wings only popped out for an hour.
No, they're
I learned
useful.
something today.
But him talking about Starfinder does bring up one more that I wanted to mention before we sign off. You've already made it past the quarantine hustle, right?
I have.
Okay, that medicine check.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you turn a D20 roll into, oh, we rolled a D20. All right, we know exactly what to say to the doctor. Yeah, we rolled a nat 20 on it. And Greg and I just shook our heads because we knew what a cross-species contagious thing would mean. Yeah, that
Hey,
was good.
I had a plan there. Unfortunately, the doctor rolled a nat 20 to see what I was up to and realized that there wasn't really anything. So my plan was to actually shut down. It wasn't the Fusion Queen. It was the other bar,
Yeah, but the
and have them
problem was
quarantined.
you both would have been locked down into quarantine if he had rolled anything under a 20 to try and see past your good roll could have ended up ended your characters in quarantine for months.
Yeah, indefinitely.
Yeah, until he took a 20 on the roll to see what was going on.
Which might take
But
at
could
least
still take
weeks.
months.
Yeah. But anyway, that was one that came up that I thought was funny.
It was indeed
rolling,
funny.
Yeah, that's why rolling 20s is not always a good thing, because sometimes you get yourself into trouble.
Yeah.
Like with
Indeed.
the crossbows.
I feel like that's also what
Bust
happens
and-
when your DM is a nurse.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
true.
Yeah.
yeah, I suppose. All right.
Bringing that real life knowledge. So is this where we're signing off?
Yes, let's go ahead and sign off.
Good.
So,
All right. Well, in closing, I guess to bring back what I was saying, again, this whole thing just violates the bejesus out of rules as written, because like you can't succeed. Well, you can succeed certainly. You can't natural 20 or natural 1 and thus succeed or fail at a skill check or initiative or what have you. But when we allow it, when we like skew the rules a little bit, and oftentimes the people who are going to have a problem with it are the same people that are like, if you take more than 30 seconds to look up how a spell works, they're going to, oh, you're taking away from the fun and all that. But I digress. When we just kind of put the rules down for a second, we can have a lot more fun. We make better stories, and it's just stuff that sticks with us for a lot longer than just kicking monsters in the face, and or eventually just having a ability score and skill check so high that nothing ever not succeeds for you, essentially. But that's just my 2 cents on the matter. If you guys have anything to add, we've got the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. And do be sure to drift on over to the end of Planar Crossroads. If for no other reason, then you're going to see your boy playing I'm pretty committed to the idea of an android operative for Starfinder, and then an orc hunter for sure in their Rise of the Rune Lords game. And also do it because their stuff is really good. And like when I started making a YouTube channel, when I decided this is what I'm going to do with my time, I'm not going to lie, like the idea of making money off it that's part of it. Insulin is expensive. Student loans are expensive. Food is expensive. I would like to not starve and die. So I would like to be able to like throw darts at the wall money-wise. And if I stick, I stick. I'm going to try my best, literally the American dream. But nowhere along that point did I think to myself, I want to make friends doing this. I'm going to meet some people that I'm going to like essentially spam their Facebook page with videos because I'm terrible. And then I don't know, month, 2 months-ish later, here we are talking about all this stuff, gaming together, having Joe and I call him the after party when we're going to be like, I don't know if we're doing that tonight, but be like 2 or 3 hours of just talking about stuff. But yeah, that's what I gotta say about that. I got real feelsy there on my end for a second. Go check out the Planar Crossroads. Again, like and subscribe for more videos, and let's get out of here. Say bye, guys.
Bye.
bye,
Bye.
Dragon.
Bye.
I mean, you can't.